Danny Carabano.
What's good?
You sexy motherfucker.
Oh, shit. All right. We're going in there. I like that.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Having a good morning. Waking up at 10:20, which is I wake up every day at 10:20.
Exactly on the dot?
On the dot, 10:20. It's horrible.
Do you need an alarm or is it the body
Well,
clock?
I wake up at 7:30 and then I lay in bed until 10:20. That's my trick. Yeah, keep guessing.
If you're getting awake at 7,
Yeah, 7:30.
but you're not getting home till after midnight most nights.
Yeah, I don't go to bed until I probably fall asleep at 3:30.
Whoa, you're like Dracula.
I don't know much about Dracula. Does Dracula sleep? I guess
I don't think he sleeps.
He might not sleep.
Yeah.
I don't think they
No,
either
does he sleep? I don't know.
Because it depends on sometimes vampires have sex and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're all gay. So it's
Well, don't be the gay one.
yeah, exactly. Whoa. I feel like, no, because if you're a vampire, you're eventually going to be gay. Because if you're just fucking for thousands of years, you're going to get bored of women at a certain point. You're going to have to suck a dick just to spice things up. Standard vampire.
It does sound.
Yeah.
That sounds legit.
It's like these, this happens to the rock stars, After you have how many orgies can you really have till you're just like get kind of bored?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it hasn't happened to me yet.
Probably a lot, but then you hit that number,
Yeah. Well, it's like porn. Like if that's any reflection, you kind of, as time goes by, you kind of get a little bit more experimental, or with, like, I won't say me.
Yeah, people.
People can kind of like. Anyway, let's drop this subject.
No, I want to know where this is going. You've had me intrigued. I've been watching the same video for the last 30 years, so.
Oh, really? Is it a VCR that you plug in?
Yeah, exactly. It's just this. I want to know what you've been getting into. But you're also like married, engaged, or something?
I'm married.
I feel like as soon as you propose, as soon as she says yes, the guy's porn categories start getting a little freaky. Like as soon as she says yes, he goes home and he watches some crazy shit.
Well, I actually think my porn intake has reduced dramatically as I gotten older.
Nice. That's a great thing about low T,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, low T. That's interesting you say that, because I noticed a difference from when I turned 32, my sex drive lowered a lot.
Oh, that's probably emotional issues. That's too young. That's too young for low T, bro.
That's daddy issues.
Yeah, exactly. That's some other shit.
It's been coming back lately, though, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's either that or
Fierce.
microplastics, What'd you do? I heard it's like it clogs up your pee hole or something. I think that's scientific right there. Yeah. 32. Dude, 32 was... Anyway, we don't have to get into it.
Oh, God.
Well, I have a similar... When I was 27, I was taking Propecia to stop losing my hair.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that it'd make your... Can we say dick?
We can say anything.
I didn't realize that it would make your dick stop working.
Oh, really?
So then it was like...
Was it worth it?
No, not at all. As soon as I realized it, I thought, I remember the girl I was dating was doing like a strip tease for me. And I was like, can't you do that in the other room?
Yeah.
Is there someone else would appreciate this more than me right now? And she told her father, I stripped for my man. She was very close to her father. He was a psychiatrist. I stripped for him and he just didn't even look at me. And then the father said, what medications is he on? She said, all he takes is Propecia. And the father was like, that's what it is. Because he's like, my daughter's hot. Okay.
Yeah.
So it can't be that.
Yeah.
He was very, so they were very close. And then I stopped taking it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I did Kegels every day for a few months. That was amazing. You do your Kegels?
I have actually been starting to do those.
Should we do them right now?
Squeeze. Do you still do them every day?
No, that was, I don't want to. I like the low T life. Yeah, it's a lot less stress. Like, I could do it. I could do the maca, the moringa, the Kegels, and then you'll be ready to go. You do maca, moringa.
I don't know what the maca and moringa is.
Maca and moringa are like these herbs. Mm-hmm. And then I was taking it every day, and I was like a schoolboy. It was crazy. I had like public erections.
Like NRBs, no reason bonus.
I didn't know about the NRB. Yeah, no reason boner.
Yeah.
Where I had to get like a textbook and cover myself like I was in high school again. That shit works. Maca, moringa, Kegels, you're good.
There you go, guys.
If that's what you're looking for. Yeah.
Kegels, yeah. I know the Kegels are good for the blood flow.
Yeah, no, that worked. I did it for like 2 months straight. I took maca every day for 2 months straight, and it worked. Yeah, I don't want to get too
Trade
vulgar
secrets.
here, but
We can go deeper.
we can go. Oh, I was able to go much deeper. Actually, that's as much as I can say. The depth of my character increased dramatically.
Oh man, what do you think of the place? It's nice, eh?
It's cute. I watch like Mark Norman, Joe List, Tuesdays with Stories, and it's funny because they're doing the podcast and they keep pointing at stuff, and apparently they can see outside.
Oh,
And I didn't know of any
cool.
podcast that could do that. And then all of a sudden here we are. So this is like I was just watching it and I was like, oh, that's so weird. They keep pointing, normally saying like racist shit. That's in now, so it's okay.
So you from New York?
Yeah, born in Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But you guys, your father's Colombian?
My father's born in Colombia. Yeah.
Okay. When did he immigrate over?
I think he was like 18-ish.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then, so then your mother is American?
She's born in Brooklyn. Yeah. She's her parents are born in Pennsylvania. Her grandparents are born in Pennsylvania. But then she did her DNA. It's like Greekish, like Greek and some other white.
I mean, we're all immigrants of some way,
Yeah.
aren't
A
we?
lot of us. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And then how was like growing up in Brooklyn?
It was fine. I don't know. I didn't talk much when I was very young. So it was like cool. You know, I was with my family a lot, go to school.
You're just a quiet kid.
I was pretty quiet. Yeah. And then it was interesting because like, I know I used to start walking to school when I was like 8. And then sometimes you take the bus. And then I went to junior high school. Then that's when you're like, what are you? You're like 11. And then I started taking the bus. But that was interesting. You're very young. You're taking the bus. I thought that, well, looking back, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like I was on 50th Street. I was going to like 80th Street. You got to wait for a public bus, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I had the same thing. When I was like 12, I was going to high school. I used to have to get 2 trains and a bus to school, there and back. And I don't know if it was a good thing. It was interesting, but it exposed me to like the real world really early.
Yeah.
You know, you see all like the whole cast of human civilization.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, this is what I'm actually walking into when I finish this place.
Yeah, it definitely like that was part of the maturing experience, like the travel more than the classes themselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wonder if people still do that now.
Travel?
No, like, you know, put their kids on like, of course they fucking do. Who
I
am
think they
kidding?
do more so
Yeah,
now.
Of course.
Yeah.
So,
Because what are you going to do? Uber your kid to school every day?
Exactly. It was so dumb.
Yeah.
So then did you go to college and then you were a teacher for a while?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a teacher when I was 12. That's when I decided.
wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah, I would tutor kids when I was like 12. And I was in some kind of math team. It was me and then all the other Chinese kids. And we would play Chinese poker, play handball, very Asian lifestyle.
I love handball.
Yeah, it was great. Math team, handball, Chinese poker. It was a good life, you know? Yeah. And I would tutor some kids in math, not the Chinese kids, but I would tutor some kids in math. Just coincidentally, that's not like a race thing. Just it's a fact.
No.
And
no one would believe you if you said you did.
And I was like, this is fun. This is really cool to like teach somebody something. So I was like 12 and I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. And then so right after college, I taught math and computer programming.
Wow.
Yeah, year 2000.
That's when you started?
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time ago. Dude, I learned computer programming in 1996. It's like creepy how long ago. And I have no money. I should be so wealthy right now.
You should be.
Yeah.
That's like you would have been the pioneer. That was when in the day.
You never know. Not you never know, but you think it's all like regular. It's like, yeah, I took a class, I learned programming. I mean, I enjoyed programming, but I mean,
did you have any suspicion that it was going to go back then, like go as far as what it was?
Until recently in my old age, I didn't ever think about the future. It just scared me too much. So I would only think about the present and regrets of the past, but mainly the present.
When I was a kid, I always thought about the future. Yeah, I'm becoming a lot more present now, but when I was a kid, I was the sort of person that would always want to be the adult. I always wanted to like have my own life, live my own way. And yeah.
Like I thought about things I want to be doing, but it just didn't involve like thinking past 3 months in the future freaked me out. I mean, until recently, I was just like so scared of dying. The thing about the future was like, oh, it's going to happen sooner. So I just wouldn't think about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it scared me.
I've met a few comedians that have had like legitimate fears of death.
Yeah.
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 It's
But then you
interesting.
get old. Again, that's another positive of the low T. You know, like you can't get all riled up anymore. You're like, I'm going to die. You know, like my perspective hasn't changed on anything at all.
Yeah.
Like
But the energy behind it's
the
changed.
energy behind it's changed. So you
Gotcha.
just like, you kind of give in, you know, it's like a deer in headlights, except for probably the next 40 years, hopefully.
Yeah, you're gonna be fine. And with what's happening, I mean, just reduce the plastics, mate. Don't block up that pee hole.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, I feel like I should give it one last run of like caring about things. Also, when I quit smoking weed, I mean, I used to think I cared about everything. And again, I have the same exact perspectives now on everything, but I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
like, whatever. I used to get so excited about everything. Like someone mentioned, I can make anything a conversation about the vaccine. I mean, anything. You could bring up any, like, oh, Coca-Cola. And I'm like, yeah, these big corporations. And so I'm like, what am I talking about? But I do love Coca-Cola. It's delicious.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm a Diet Coke man.
Diet Coke, man. Really? Usually that's only for the overweight people.
Yeah, but you got to stay lean and fit, my
Did
friend.
you used to be fat?
I've had some chubby days.
Really?
Yeah, but
How
not
chubby?
massively. I don't know. You don't know kilograms, I'm sure, because I don't know
I used to be
pounds.
a math teacher.
Well,
so
I weigh 72 kilograms.
72 kilograms.
That's what
So
I weigh now. I weigh the same weight now as I did when I was 17.
Kilograms to
changed.
pounds is very easy.
Yeah?
As long as you don't have to be perfectly accurate. You just do double.
Mm-hmm.
You were how many kilograms?
72. So 140.
So then 144,
104.
and then you just move the decimal, 14.4,
Mm-hmm.
and you add them together. So 144 plus 14.4, I don't know, for me that's easy. So it's something.
It's about 130 pound, I think it is. Around that.
70, yeah, 144 plus 14. So it's 158.
Okay, well, there we go.
That's the fattest you ever were.
No, that's what I am now.
Oh, okay.
The
All
fattest I ever was I'm 72. The fattest I ever was 86 kilograms.
86. So that's 172 plus 17. 189. Oh, that's fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's chubby. You had the cheeks.
I had the cheeks. That was I was coming out of a bad stage of my life. I had like a 3-year stint where I was like doing a lot of cocaine.
I feel like you're gonna say that, but
around.
the chubby cocaine people, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Because it wasn't like that for a while, but then coming towards the end, I just started to like blow out. My body just started just going south. Everything's weren't happening properly. So, anyways, those days are behind me mostly.
That'd be fun. It's too bad I didn't do like a 3-month coke binge. I kind of regret it. Just to say, because
fuck Pilates.
Because everyone, all the, especially in comedy, a lot of comics are like, oh, I used to shit in public because I was so hammered, or I did so much coke, like, I did coke for 3 days once. Like, it's like a fun story.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they're like that old man wisdom about it.
I do have a lot of good stories, which will pay dividends one day. I hope.
Yeah. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So then, when did you drop teaching and move into the restaurant biz?
So it was my 6th year teaching.
Okay.
And then, I always wanted to own my own business, and I thought about it a lot. In college, I would do people's computer programs. I started selling weed, and to me, I was like entrepreneurial for doing it. I thought that was cool, but I was also just half a communist, so it was just like I wouldn't ever lock my doors, so I didn't believe in like locking doors. But I also had lots of weed in my room, so like people would just steal from me, and I kind of just accepted that as a cost of being a commie. And it didn't work. I didn't make very much money. Apparently, a lot of my friends were stealing from me. So So I was selling weed, but I didn't. And for years, I didn't even have a lot. I would either I didn't have a key to my apartment. I mean, it had to be. At one point with my apartment right after college, when I moved out, I didn't have a key for however long I lived there, 7 years. I physically did not have the key. So it was not even like if I locked my door, I'd lock myself out. I just threw it away. Like that's how extreme I was. I didn't keep the key. It was given to me. I got rid of it and never locked my door.
That's insane.
And there was an outside door and an inside door.
I mean, people do that in small country towns. They don't do that in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, yeah. The thing is, the house was behind. You ever see the house where it's behind the other house?
Yeah.
So it is easier to do that.
Yeah.
Because they have to go through the driveway in order to rob you. But I just was against it. College, I didn't lock my door, and then after college.
Where do you think that came from? Like the communist side of you. So the communist side of you obviously was an ideology.
Mm.
I'm a little hungover, guys. So you obviously, where did that? Because that's a pretty broad stroke.
Yeah, I mean, everything happened when I was 12. When I was 12, I was like, oh, everyone is working, so it doesn't really matter what they're doing. They're all actively participating. They should all get paid the same. And then I was like, oh, maybe the doctor should get like a bonus. Everyone gets the same flat fee, and then the doctor gets a bonus. That was what I thought when I was 12. I was like, oh, this is something. And then all of a sudden, someone's like, I think it's almost, maybe that's not quite communism, but it was something like socialism. I don't know the difference.
I mean, there is merit in it, in a way.
I was into it for a long time. Yeah, I was like, yeah, everyone should. It's kind of like.
But then you almost like you let people then take from you though, which is kind of another thing in itself. Again, it's almost like you didn't value your own stuff or what.
Oh yeah, I didn't value things for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't value things, and then also I didn't want to have that in my mind of like locking something or like having like I wanted it to be like free. I didn't realize it would literally be free. You know what I mean? But like I wanted it to be free in terms of freedom.
Yeah.
Not in terms of free as in not paying.
No, I get it. There's something about it. I know. I'm really curious because I've had very similar moments in my life, like where and my wife is the same. I'm not going to put our address out there, but we don't lock our door.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, we don't lock our door.
Wow, okay.
But she doesn't let me. I would, but she's like, no. She's like, I've never
haven't
done
met
it.
another non-door locker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's still happening now.
Wow.
But it's I think there's like, it's something about like the freedom. I think she like wants to feel free. Like that door is always open.
Yeah.
Like if she loses her keys or whatever, at least she can get in the building and still get into her apartment. And I think there's something more deeper behind it as well. Like, there's some energy I think that she feels if she locks the door. I don't know. I never really asked.
This is probably a long shot, but like that thing about the entrepreneur who like wears the same clothes every day. Now they don't spend any mental energy on what they're going to wear. So not spending any mental energy on like, I don't know, having keys or locking it or even just like worrying that someone might rob you. Like that whole category is like something you don't spend mental energy on. And I think that's part of it. But then I think most of it is just romanticizing the concept, just like, and not like a look at me. Cause I mean, I didn't announce it to people, but I mean, clearly anyone who ever came home with me noticed I just opened the doors. I mean, I didn't have people pay attention to that, but I just opened the door. I just went, I never took out a key. So I think some people figured it out, if I was dating anyone, they would realize that, pretty quickly. But I think it was, for me, a lot of it was just like romanticizing and like, I don't want to say ego, but probably this ego thing about like, not look at me because I'm not telling anyone, but me telling myself, look at me. Like, look how good you're doing. You don't even lock your door. That's so like, you're standing by what you say you believe in, which is like, I don't even fucking know.
No, I get it,
but
man.
something there.
I get
you know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
But it was a lot of romanticizing.
It's like justifying this mental construct that we've kind of made of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like trying to fulfill it's hard to, obviously, like you're a teacher, I'm an electrician. We're not the two most articulate people in the world, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's something there. Someone should let us know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, please, guys, reach out. Help us. Okay. So then you got into teaching, you've bailed out, you've got into the restaurant biz, and you went you bought a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
Or you'd buy, or would you just get the lease and you created a vegan restaurant?
I just created one, yeah.
There you go.
So like when I was teaching, I also wrote a textbook on programming. I thought it was good. And I had a partner writing textbook, but then once his wife got pregnant, he's like, I can't write. I just can't do it. So I wrote like 30, 40 pages of a textbook. I thought it was really good. Like kind of a different, now you see these textbooks about it, but it was like object-oriented programming. So instead of like teaching you what all the things do, it was project-based. It's like, this is the first project. This is what this project's going to do. I'm going to teach you how to make this project. And now there's plenty of people who do it that way. But this was in 2004. So it was, I think, in a sense, ahead of its time. And so it was just like, that's how I taught my classes. It's like, we're going to make tic-tac-toe. We're going to make Pac-Man. And then in that project, you're going to learn all of the things. It's the same way I feel about like language learning. Like, I'm not going to teach you to conjugate words in Spanish. We're just going to have a conversation about getting a coffee. Then we're going to have a conversation about using the bathroom. Then we're going to have a conversation about, you know, how to get a better erection. You know what I'm saying? That's what I tell my students. It's always day 3, you know, the important stuff. So, and I feel like if you do that, if you just do like project-based, mission-based, you're going to learn like that natural learning technique. So I wrote a textbook on that. The guy bowed out. I didn't finish it. I actually coded Chinese poker for the cell phone in 2005. I coded it for the mobile phone.
That's
and it was
sick.
you against 3 CPUs or whatever. It's not AI. It's just, they're just coded to play the way I would play. So all 3 of them play the same way. So
That's sick. You're a smart boy.
I did nothing. Not that's, you know, smart, but not, you know,
Nice.
I never did anything with. That was one thing I'm like, man, I could have at least been the guy who coded Chinese poker. You know, Chinese poker is a sick game. I don't know if you ever played it. 13 card poker,
Never
4
played.
people. It's really, really fun game. You
Let's
can play
do it
for
one
money.
time.
Yeah, it's really fun. Good drinking game, good gambling game.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get rid of your cards, whatever. Anyway, I coded it for the cell phone, which is so long ago. And then it was just there. I tested it, finished it, and then just opened the restaurant instead. Which,
There's a reason for everything, though. You know,
yeah, the
when- I
reason is
think-
me being a jackass.
No,
Yeah,
I know, but you just are who you are at the time. You know, I know, like, it's hard to follow things through to the end. It really is, because the excitement is often in the early stages.
Yeah.
The last bit, the publishing of something and trying to get a project out to the face of someone, that bit's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You know,
But
and
I'm
so
really bad at last stage.
a
that's
lot
just,
of
you know.
people are. You're a creative person. That's why
Yeah.
like creative people need a team behind them, so they
Yeah.
can push creativity, and then everyone else kind of picks up the slack behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I would need someone to get to last stage. I'm just not like, if you needed me to open a restaurant, I can open that restaurant
Yeah.
faster than I think most people can open the restaurant. And then it comes time to like, now you got to like, you get through it, you have the place, it's renovated, it's that all the permits and everything, and then hire the people. And then it's like, okay, well, now we got to train the staff. And I'm like, I already did most of, like, let's just open.
Yeah.
And then it's just not good. Like, it's not the way you should do it. You got to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's definitely been a problem for me.
Yeah, but as I said, I truly get it, because I've had similar struggles, and I think it is just when you're a creative person, the energy and the beauty is in the creativity and creating.
Yeah.
That's all it is, and then you just lose interest.
It's just, but then it goes back to what we said earlier. It's just that fear of death thing, not thinking about the future. It's just like, oh, but it's like, if I go too far ahead, now everything is over. And it's just like, it's something in there. Something's off. It's like, so it's not just about like, oh, because some people say, okay, well, reason for everything and, you know, being your best self. But it's like, no, I was not being my best self. I had a fear that I never confronted still to even at this age. And then I didn't fix the problem. So it's always was a problem. I think sometimes you have to be realistic and be like, no, you're bad at this. You know, like, I don't know. I think you just got to admit it. And then hopefully you admit it, and then you eventually fix it. Or then you die and it doesn't matter. It's fine. Nobody's going to talk about it. And then when you die, people are going to just act like you were great. So either way, it works out.
Yeah, well, nothing matters once you're dead.
Yeah.
None of this means anything. When I was a kid, I used to do tutoring, and they used to give me these workbooks, and there was 5 pages. And I figured out if I ripped out the last page of the text of the workbook, no one would notice.
Okay.
So I used to just try and do little things like that. I was also like not very good at following things through. I'm getting better now, but I always would just do little things to not have to follow things through. I would always like be the last minute kind of person. Yeah, I've had issues with that my whole life in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't know. I think in a way, you do have to admit it at some time and face up to it if you need to. But it also, if you're happy where you are just right now,
oh, I never said that.
If you are, I am.
If you are.
Yeah. then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You're happy now, though. No?
Not at all. No.
Really?
No,
All right, we'll get into that.
Yeah, no.
So the restaurant was good or bad?
Always
Have you
bad.
still got it?
Horrible.
Okay. I don't know.
19 years. And it's just like, I don't know.
It's been a drag.
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's the worst decision ever. It's like,
Really?
I mean, there were some fun parts. When I was there eating there every day, I mean, I love the food. So that's good. I mean, obviously, I'm making the food.
Mm-hmm.
I love the food. I thought the food was great. I mean, for years. I mean, I ate V-Spot every day for like a decade, 9
Mhm.
years, really. Because that's when we opened East Village. So then I moved to the East Village. I mean, I was still eating V-Spot every day, actually. But I was eating Brooklyn Park Slope V-Spot food every day for 9 years. Enjoyed every meal. I mean, it was always good.
Wow.
And I could eat what I wanted. So I thought that was dope.
Mm.
And I was kind of partying a bit too. You know, you got the restaurant life and you're getting hammered. No cocaine, sadly. And then just, you know, getting high all the time. But then it was just like, it's just too annoying, you know? Everyone, like, you run out of stuff and then the health department's there and then the staff keep hooking up with each other and it just gets complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. Hang on, there's something going on with the audio.
Yeah, it's like cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, are you hearing that as well?
Yeah. Could it be? Should I do the same as you?
Yeah.
Should I mimic what you're doing?
Yeah. Just make sure everything's plugged in. Something fucking going on. It was sounding a little rough yesterday as well.
It's like the last syllable of the sentence kind of cuts out. Hello.
Hello.
These
Yeah.
people walking by, they don't even look at us. I used to always think it was so stupid. I mean, I love horror movies, and I used to always think it was so stupid that the person comes in the room and the monster is always above them. And I'm like, idiot, there's a monster right above you, right? But then I realized people don't look around. Like, even in New York City, like, everyone's walking by. They don't even notice that there's two people here talking.
Yeah.
People don't look.
We miss so much.
We miss a lot. So I realize now I would miss if there was like some monster above my door frame. I wouldn't look. I wouldn't know, and then I'd be dead. So I'm saying, yeah.
What about if a drone was chasing you?
A drone was chasing me in public or in my apartment?
In public.
In public.
What would you do?
If a drone was chasing me in public, I mean, what can you really do? These things can fly in public. Let's say I go outside right now, a drone is chasing me. I feel like does it have can it shoot me?
No.
Okay, it can just drone me.
Yeah, it can shoot you.
If it can shoot me off, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing you can do. If a drone's chasing me, then I guess I run into a crowd, and then
That's a good idea.
you know what I mean. Then 10 people get killed because it doesn't know. It's just it just kills 6 other half Colombians. I'm just like, I'm sorry guys, that was my bad.
Yeah, someone brought that up yesterday. I was like, that's interesting.
Maybe I would cover my head, but I think it would still be smart enough to know it's me. Especially if someone, you know what I mean? Just wrap my head in a thing, in my jacket or something.
Mate, you'd have to I reckon you'd just run into a shop, wouldn't you? And then you would try and find a net.
But then once you're in a
net.
shop, then they know where you're at.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
It's just going to wait.
It's just going to wait there.
You'd want to run into a vegan restaurant.
You'd want
Just
to,
wait it out.
It's like nobody's in there.
Yeah.
This has got to be a mistake.
Did you miss teaching while you were 19 years in the hospitality biz? Well, you still are. Have you still got it?
I mean, I feel like I still teach a little bit, not too much, but I've been wanting to teach language for a long time. 10 years. I was making an app, and I did it. I finished it 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
I just didn't do anything with it.
What's the app?
It's I would call it Cyrano.
Mm-hmm.
And the real version of the app, it's funny. I was opening St. Mark's V-Spot, which had eventually closed, and now it's St. Mark's Comedy Club. But I sent the app to be made in India, and it was like a Zoom call, and flashcards would play based on everything you said, and then you'd have a Cyrano. A Cyrano is like a helper, and you'd have a helper that you wouldn't know anything what to say. So the person would talk to you, and the person would talk in your ear, tell you what to say. It would make flashcards, and then that would eventually be your lesson that you would study afterwards. So it was like immersion, but then you would study that immersion later on. Yeah, right. And it worked. And then I opened the restaurant, and I didn't look at it for 6 months. And then the company that I paid to make it, they were in India. And then I don't think it was malicious, but then the whole code all fell apart, and then it stopped working. And then they worked on it for another 6 months. They couldn't fix it. It was very weird. So then I was like, I probably could have coded that version. So then I just did a simpler version. I had people do it. I was getting robbed left and right by people. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it on my own. So it was years of me not doing anything. Then I was like, I'm going to do it on my own. Pandemic was a perfect time. I coded it. and then it's just sitting there on my phone. You know,
Wow.
no follow.
Ah, fuck apps.
The last stage.
Fuck apps.
All of them.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I started to build an app as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was yours?
It was to do with recruitment, like
Okay.
getting people traveling, wanting to travel and get jobs.
Oh, that's good.
So you could basically travel around the world, connect with like small businesses or big businesses or whatever, do like your 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, leave a review, move to the next spot. And
I love
get
that. That's
paid
great.
and paid and everything through that. It got like 3/4 of the way built. The back end all got done. The front end was still like halfway getting built. I didn't follow through with it. It's still there.
We suck.
It's a lot of time and energy I put into that thing as well.
A lot of people
I've
want
still
that
got
app.
the Instagram.
That's a good app.
Maybe one day.
Not now because like for me, or everything could be now, but like it would be great 10 years ago. And because I mean, what was I doing? I was working at VSpot like a loser. Just every day was like a failure. But if 10 years ago instead, I was just like, I'm going to go. I just got back from Colombia recently. It was like, oh, go to Colombia, work there for a little while, and also experience, Colombia for 2 months, whatever.
You should.
That would be great. It's like that thing you would do in college.
Yeah.
What's that called? Where you'd go to a semester somewhere else, abroad, study abroad.
Yeah.
So it's like work abroad for a few months, come back, and what's the big deal, Yeah, especially if you're in between apartments. That's perfect.
Well, I've done a lot of traveling. I love it. I love traveling.
Yeah.
Colombia's amazing.
Yeah.
The last big stint I did was I did like a trip around like all through Central and South America with a backpack and a surfboard.
Nice.
I was there for
and
like,
a surfboard. You were that guy.
Yeah,
I like that. All right.
A bit over a year. I just went.
That's sick.
And then the last place we landed was I met up with some friends that I'd met traveling, and we booked a house in Nicaragua, and we stayed there for a couple of months. We had a house on the beach, like beachfront, for like $600 US a month.
Wow. Yeah, that's people should be doing it. People should be doing that all the time.
Crazy not to.
I was working,
and they all have internet now.
Yeah.
So you can, and it's all like everything's there. You can like remotely work in all these little places, and they cost nothing.
Yeah. I was trying to do a joke about it. I can't figure out the joke, but like at a certain point, at its worst, V-Spot in East Village, which is since closed, was losing like $1,000 a day.
Jesus.
But I was going to work and trying. I can't figure out the joke, but like I was going to work. The reason I lost so much money is I was trying to succeed. So like you're there and you've got staff and like you're doing new recipes and you're trying to do events and all this stuff. So I had all this staff because I had intended on succeeding. So I needed the staff to succeed, but I could have just fired everyone, right? Had one person in front, one person in the back, changed the menu to like 5 items, and I would have lost less. By doing less, I would have lost less money. I could have left, gone to Nicaragua, surfed every day, and I would have made money. Like instead of losing a G a day, like I'm trying to explain to people that like, I don't know where the joke is, but it's like you have to work hard to lose the money that I lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could just sit home and I would have saved money.
Yeah.
So I could have been in Nicaragua surfing every day. And I literally, instead of losing $1,000, I would have lost $500 a day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, $600 is the rent for the whole month. Stupid.
It's unbelievable.
Idiot. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So when did you? I fucking hope this audio turns out good. I think
It's
it is.
not.
There's for something it's just cutting out a little bit.
Yeah. You should have like another thing here that's always recording us, and then you could overlay it in the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Too late
then
for that.
it should be fine. I think it's just your mic.
Yeah. So perfect. You'll be fine. That's like whenever, I notice when people post pictures, and it's like everyone looks like shit except the person who posted it.
Yeah.
They're just like, well, I picked the one where I look the best. What did you want me to do?
I think it's going to be fine. It's just the tiniest bit it's cut out, but it's good. So then, when did you get into the comedy world? Because you've got the
Yeah, no, it was way later. I mean, I've been going to comedy shows since high school. I would go to the comic strip.
So you're a fan.
Yeah, I was always a fan. It was just something to do, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was going in college a bit, not as much because I was just like in Albany. That's where I went to college, upstate. And I could have gone to comedy shows there, but I went to like very few, or when I'd come home, I'd watch once in a while. And then after college, I would go to Atlantic City. I'd watch shows there. the Borgata. That's when it kind of first opened. Borgata was nice when it first opened. They would fire a woman if they gained weight. They would have weigh-ins for their staff, which was a whole.
I'm just thinking
thing.
about what you just said about the person who takes the photo. It's so true.
It's so true. They look great.
It's so true. That is such a good joke, man.
Yeah.
You should write.
I'm sure someone's done that.
Sorry, man.
They should be an AI that like everyone posts a photo that they like best.
Yeah.
And then the AI just combine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It combines every version.
You know, other version of that is
That's an app we need.
When people do happy birthdays to their friend, but it's all pictures of basically them with their friend, like in the background. You know what I mean? They're trying to do like these. So if I was to do a collage, I'd be like, if it's your birthday, I'd do a post, be like, happy birthday, Danny, and then post all the photos of you and I together. Like that's really popular. But the people do that, they like, yeah, they pick the best photos of themselves and not the birthday boy.
Yeah, the birthday boy's got like snot in his face. Yeah, that's how it is.
Anyway, sorry, back to the Albany. We lost the chain of thought there.
Testing.
Yeah, we're good.
We were saying Albany. Oh, comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched it a lot. And then my brother, Alexis, Carabano, he went and he started doing comedy. And I would go to all his shows. Not all the shows. I went to his shows a lot. I mean, I went to watch him perform. I'd have to be well number one and people who like went and watched his shows. And for years later, I was like, oh, I like this comedy thing. And I would write down certain ideas. And then at St. Mark's Comedy, not at St. Mark's, at V-Spot East Village, we would do some open mics in the back. I was like the event coordinator for the event space in the back, which is now the comedy club. And some girl comes in and she's like, oh, I want to do a comedy show here. No, I want to do a open mic here. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure. You do open mics, great. And then we set it up. I go and I watch her open mic at around the corner, Solas. She was doing open mic at Solas. And then she does an open mic at St. Mark's. And I watch it and I'm like, okay, cool. Afterwards, she's like, why don't you do it next time? And I'm like, no, And then the next time I do it, and I love it. And then that girl is
Good on you.
That girl's Macy Kwok.
No shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is that
So
funny?
then that was like, yeah, it's so funny. So she
Yeah.
got me to do it, and then we eventually started dating, and we were doing. That was our date night. Was this Saturday once a week? That's all I did. That's all she did. Comedy wise, was one open mic on Saturdays. We were so nervous in the beginning, we'd get hammered. I mean, she'd show up with a bottle of wine. We'd just get ripped. Finish a bottle of wine, keep drinking, just to do 5 minutes in front of nobody. Although a couple of them now, they've a couple of those people really. It's cool to see the progression of everyone.
Wow.
But yeah, she's the one who got me to do it, so it's pretty dope. Yeah,
that is insane. That's a cool fucking story, man.
I think it's pretty cool, and I was miserable. Like when she came in, I'm just like, what do you want? Yeah. And then maybe she was like, this guy needs to. Little comedy in his life.
He needs a smile.
Yeah. So, and it was fun. As soon as I did it, I was like, it was terrible for years. For years, it's just terrible. But it was fun at the time.
Yeah.
You look back at it, it's cringy. I look at myself from yesterday, I'm embarrassed. But,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like,
I think we all struggle to watch ourselves.
Yeah.
It's hard.
But but I know for sure the whole time it was fun.
Yeah.
Like every time I've done it, except for like twice, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been the best thing that's come into my life.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so cool about it. And it's also good, I think, when you're an old piece of shit like me, and it's like 47 is like, the idea of it is gross.
It's not that old,
It's
bro.
disgusting. It's really horrible. It's 60. You think it rounds to 50? It is 60. Like, I don't need to explain the mathematics of this, you know what I mean? But like, if you think about it, 47 is 60. It's not cool. People, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, rounding changes at a certain point.
Oh, God.
But like, I feel like my mom looks young for her age, so I feel like I got a little bit
You
of the
look
genetics
young,
in
man.
there, so that helps.
You could easily pass as I reckon 40.
40, yeah.
Yeah.
So
You don't have any wrinkles on your face. All you New Yorkers.
that's why I don't smile, because then you're gonna see that's when you see the crow's feet.
It's all you New Yorkers who have never seen any fucking sun. You all look so young. It's unbelievable.
Huh? Yeah, maybe that's a thing.
Yeah, it really is. The sun is what deteriorates you.
But yeah, I think comedy is when you're getting old, I mean, all the major highly paid comics are all old, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's one interesting thing. I mean, Matt Rife is somewhat, but he's not even that young, you know? I don't know how old he is, but he's very wealthy. I think he's worth like, last time I checked was like a year ago, he's worth like 15 million. So it's got to be a lot more.
Yeah, his special was one of the, I think like one of the second or third most watched specials ever.
Oh, wow.
The last one, the crowd work one, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Because the ladies love him. He's an attractive man.
Yeah, crowd work. And
And-
it's also,
and he's funny.
crowd work was trending and it's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
I didn't like his special though. His actual
stand up.
Yeah,
it wasn't
I
good.
didn't even finish his actual special.
Yeah, it
which
was not good.
I normally would always finish the special. I got halfway
It was a
through.
little,
like,
and you know, there was all this talk about the kitchen thing or whatever. It was just, to me, it's just people don't like, they're putting out these jokes and it's just a little hacky.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. I read this book a long time ago. It's called like Letters to a Young Poet. And this one older poet is giving advice to a younger poet. And he's like, just don't write poetry about love. Cause like everybody does that.
Mm.
And I feel like comics, you can have a similar premise. That happens all the time. People have, you know, the same lived experience. So it's like, so you end up having a little overlap there. But like, it's just the hackiness and the woman in the kitchen. Even just now, I was listening to like this other podcast and it's like, it's trending now to like, you know, the anti-woke, I guess. So it's something with race. So, you know, something with a black guy comes up or a black woman and they're just, but it's so hacky and it's just like chicken and basketball. It's just like the references are so like, it's not even, to me, it's not even offensive because it's racist. It's just so hacky. You're doing a fried chicken black person. You're doing a what? I mean, literally the 80s, probably the 70s, comics are doing these jokes. So it's 2025. So 50 years later, you're doing the same hacky thing. It's like when someone hears I'm Colombian, they're like cocaine. And I'm like, okay, it's not racist. It's not offensive, but like, there's so much shit you can say about Colombians. Like this is
Yeah.
just hacky at this point.
Plus, if you actually know Colombians that have come from Colombia, they
Yeah.
fucking hate cocaine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could be.
most of them do.
Yeah,
that I've met.
Yeah,
They hate being stigmatized to Pablo Escobar.
for sure. Yeah.
That's a big one.
And
So that's
again-
why they hate the cocaine because they don't like the whole
Yeah.
being.
And again, it's like you hear it. I mean, I'm 47, like I said. So I heard this when I was
60.
like 60. I heard this when I was like, you know, in my teens, in my college. Forget about it. It's fine. Even back then, it was hacky. So like now, it's like 25 years later. Again, I think most of the time, these things that come off like racist, people don't care that much. I mean, the race themselves don't care that much. It's just that like, well, put a little effort into it. You know what I mean? Like, you know enough about a culture, and you can do it. You can make fun of them, which I guess would technically be racist because you're putting them all together as one group, which isn't just valid. There's so many different types of Colombians. It's insane. It doesn't even make sense. No race joke against Colombians will ever really, really make sense because there's such a variety, right? Of any people. But
I'm beginning to feel when it comes to making jokes about something else, I think it's better to like cast a tight brush rather than a wide brush. You know, like if you're going to make a joke about, say, a Chinese person, don't make a joke about the whole Chinese culture. Make a joke about a Chinese person,
This one person
specifically
you met.
that you met.
yeah.
I think that's a better way to go about
Although
something.
false facts are a style that I kind of sometimes like.
Okay.
You know, the false fact thing where you just say something as fact, but you're joking.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And
of
then that
course.
one's, and you just kind of move forward and you don't even touch on what you just said. You're like, you know, we all know that Asian people love blank, you know, and then you just barrel forward.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wait, we didn't know that. Like where it's not a stereotypical thing. And I
Yeah.
like that one.
It's
But
just
then,
like a early mislead.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. But then I agree with you though. Better to say like, I mean, I had a Chinese friend in junior high school, Xing Yu, and I thought he was my boy, you know? And then I went over his house and everything fell apart, you know? Like
Why?
after, I mean, I guess I was being like culturally insensitive or I was just rude, I guess American rude. And I just, you know, I was fucking up. I broke a thermometer at his house at the end of the whole thing. Cause I was like, he had a magnet thermometer and I was like, I adjusted it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then it just fell and broke. You know, he made me a ham sandwich. After we hung out, 12 years old, Chinese kid, Xing Yu, not all Chinese people, but specifically Xing Yu. He's awesome. I'm sure I should look him up. We should hang out. He gave me a bill for the hangout. Like he was like, well, you broke a thermometer. That's $5. And
Are
he's like,
you
yeah, he's like, a
serious?
loaf of bread is like $2.19 and you had 2 slices of bread. So that's going to be like 20 cents. And then ham, I feel like you had like 6, 8 slices of ham.
Are you fucking serious? Like he
Yeah, it was
fucking
like at a
paid for it
restaurant.
all.
I mean, his mom probably told me to give me that. So Xingyu and Xingyu's mom, no one else, no other Chinese people, but these two for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
That is really
Yeah,
funny.
it's really funny.
That's he's probably a fucking billionaire right now. You
Oh
know
my
that.
God. Yeah. He's the guy I should have partnered with. He knows how to follow through. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
I should have, damn Xingyu, hit me up. We got this.
So what's the process been like? Like, what's the journey been like with owning a comedy club? So guys who don't know, Danny owns St. Mark's Comedy Club.
With my brother, Alexis.
The best fucking comedy club in New York City, in my opinion. One of the best anyway.
That's at least when you're in the same room as me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, these guys, they give mid-range amateur comics a go. That's the best thing about these guys. They have great comics. They have mid-range comics. Like, I don't mean mid-range in skill and not being funny, but you're giving guys early in their career.
Yeah, like time in the game. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
And so there's not many clubs that are doing that as well as you are. I think Broadway's another really good one that they do that as well. Nice. But yeah, you guys are giving people a crack, so it's a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah,
you're
and
doing
it's tough.
a big service to the community.
Thank you. A lot of people give a lot of slack. No, not slack. Schmack. There's a word I'm supposed to use there. It's not slack. Where they're like, you know, comedy clubs, and it's like it's so hard to get stage time. But everyone blames the clubs. But A, they don't realize how expensive it is to have a club in New York City. But B, it's like there happen to be so many comics. How could you possibly give them all stage time? It doesn't physically work. And it's like, so that's a thing that people complain, oh, influencers are getting stage time. And it's like, well, these comedy clubs are going, I mean, Caroline's went out of business. You know, this Upper West Side one, the Stand Up New York sold to New York Comedy Club. They didn't do that because they were making so much money. You know, like all these clubs struggling. And there's actually not a lot of comedy clubs in New York. Like official comedy clubs. There's like 7.
Not to the amount of people that are here as well.
Yeah. There's literally, I think, like 7 comedy clubs.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then you have a lot of other places doing comedy, but there's only really like 7 comedy clubs. You got so it's not that lucrative. And I think because of, it's kind of like actually relates a little bit to the vegan restaurant thing. It's vegan restaurants aren't competition for each other, but the meat restaurant serving vegan options, that's why vegan restaurants keep going out of business. You know, comedy clubs aren't really competition for each other, but the barbershop doing a comedy show, that's the reason why so many comedy clubs go out of business. So it's very related in that regard. So
that's interesting. But I bet, so how long have you had St. Mark's for? How long has it been like an official comedy club?
2.5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that new.
Yeah. And then before that, we were doing the communist thing, just like everything free, just come in, just watch a show. You can come in, you can smoke a blunt, you can watch a show, enjoy yourself. I wasn't running it at the time, but Alexis was like that. And he just, you know, he really just loves the art. He just wanted to support other comics. It was just a space, but obviously that didn't bring in the money. So, So that didn't help the restaurant stay in. I mean, if we had done, you know, kind of like people get mad at 2-drink minimum. Sorry, that's Tony D Comedy calling me right there. Tony Davos.
There we go.
But you know, people again, they're like, oh, tickets, and you have to buy 2 drinks, and a water's $5, and it's like, well, we just literally to stay in business is what, and we were able to stay there because the landlord who I owed, 20 months rent to, literally, the V-Spot closed with me owing him almost 2 years of rent, and he's like,
fuck,
we go out of business. I think he was testing me to see like if I would literally close down. We closed down the day we said we would. And then he calls me and he's like, why don't you try that comedy thing? You know? So he saw what Alexis was doing. And that kind of, he was like, it's just, his space is just too big. It's hard to get the rent he wants. He's like, and he's a romantic as well. He's like a rich romantic, which is like interesting.
And he obviously liked you guys.
Obviously liked us, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the owner of 12 St. Mark's Place. And he's like, you know, try it. And then I was like, okay, if we're going to try this, we've got to be strict. Like, if you don't want to buy 2 drinks, we'll refund your money. You just can't be here. You know, like, this is the agreement.
You got to have a hard line.
Yeah, you got to have a hard line. You know, we've got to be strict, you know. And as soon as we made it strict, then it was just so much better than the restaurant immediately. Like,
so it's working. Everything's, it's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but when you compare to what we were doing, you know, like, it's just so much easier.
Well, most businesses, don't most businesses go out of business within a year of opening. Isn't that the
Yeah, especially if you're laundering money. That's the, you don't want to get audited. So you're like, all right, let's clean this money and get out of here.
So for 2.5 years, I mean, I don't see it going anywhere. The shows, you get people every
Yeah.
time. Like, not every time, but
We've got like 5 years left on the lease. So in
Okay.
5 years, we could end up, it could be one of these random units gone, like Caroline's. Their lease
Right.
ended, the rent went up double. But I mean, our rent is already so high
Mhm.
that I can't imagine it going that much, you know?
Do you think you could try, if the lease went up and you couldn't go with that, do you think you could try and, now that you've learned the hard lessons, mimic the model and actually just grow the St. Mark's, like the
brand,
comedy
yeah.
business? Like
I mean,
sort of what St. New
We
York
have
Comedy
5
Club
years.
have done?
Yeah. We have 5 years. So I
Yeah.
feel like,
Because I
I
think
feel
there's
like
an
we could.
appetite for it.
yeah,
I really do.
yeah.
And where you guys have found that club is like such a great area.
That's the thing. The
There's not
location
another
is
comedy
really
club on the
important.
street.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the foot traffic pre-pandemic was like, we timed it. 100 people would pass every minute.
No.
So like, I mean, now it's a lot harder, but if we were doing real comedy back then, I mean, we would have made some serious money because
Wow.
even if you don't sell tickets, there were so many people looking to, and there was a bigger bar culture back then. So it definitely would have killed back then. And then even the fact that we're dealing with a much more difficult situation now, people don't drink as much, but it's like,
Mhm.
have a water, have a mocktail. It's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, St. Mark's used to be wild. It was the place that was like 5 shots for $10. It was around the corner. Bars all over the place. I used to go there. I used to go to St. Mark's to do the sake bomb. You know, you would just get the Sapporo, I think, or whatever, or the Asahi, and then you drop the sake in there and just chug it and then
Mhm.
black out. It was
That's
great.
crazy.
Good times.
Yeah. That sounds awful.
So good. The blackout where it's just like you're on the way home. So it's like, okay, I didn't embarrass myself.
Yeah.
Like I might have embarrassed myself taking the train or the Uber home. I guess there wasn't Uber. When did Uber come out? But anyway,
Yeah.
might have been pre-Uber.
Well, I truly think you got a great business there.
Thank you.
I truly think if you wanted to, you could grow it into something even bigger. Like
Yeah.
open up more clubs. I really do. And I do believe there's an appetite here. And I think New York comedy scene is going to keep growing.
Yeah. And what I love about it is that we do a lot of like comedy in other languages. So like Angelo Colina, he's killing it. He's Venezuelan. He lived in Colombia for years. And he's got this, he understands the range of I know we said we can't, pigeonhole people, but like he understands the range of like popular cultural aspects of all the different countries. And even the way he speaks Spanish is very clear. Like he's very easy to understand. So he's not leaning towards one accent too hard. So anyone who's Latino, anyone who's a Spanish speaker, period, can enjoy his comedy. He's doing great. He sells out shows every time, literally every time. We've got a Russian show next week.
No shit.
I think it's in Russian. I think it's in Russian.
Yeah, maybe it's Ukrainian.
No, definitely not. We've done Urdu shows. We do Chinese shows all the time.
Yeah.
We do like once a week, once every other week. We have a show in Mandarin. And we've done Cantonese shows. We've done, what other languages are there? But yeah, Spanish. We want to start doing Spanish open mic. But that's the thing. So like comedy's already growing for so many years. It doesn't seem to be, it's not that comedy's not still growing, but there's so many more people in the game. So it's like we're all sharing more of the benefits. But then all of a sudden, let's say we hit the wall, hit the ceiling on it. There's no more money to be made. Then all of a sudden you're like, Spanish comedy? That's a whole new thing.
Totally.
And then Chinese comedy's picking up. Like if you just had a club that just did non-English comedy, I'm not saying to do that, but like that could be a business theoretically like a year or two from now,
Of course.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. And I enjoy it. It's different.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And when I did comedy, my first Spanish show last week, and it's like the way you say the joke is a little different. And even when you speak another language, it's a little different,
Fascinating.
It's very cool to see that,
So you're doing the same jokes you would do in English, but you're doing them in Spanish, or have you got different jokes?
I added a few in.
Okay.
Because I wanted it to be more about Colombia, being Colombian, to stick to that. I needed them to know that I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I would translate most of my jokes, but a lot of them, some just can't be translated. And I don't want to do that thing where the punchline's in English, like because I'm relying on English wordplay. I don't want to do that at all, even though like everyone in the audience speaks English as well. But I don't want to do that at all. So some of them you just have to junk. You just can't do those jokes.
Is the principles of comedy still exactly the same in another language?
No, well, I
is
don't
it
think the
different?
language is as relevant. It's
Okay.
interesting because the principles of comedy in English have changed over the last, let's say, 70 years.
How so?
So, people would go to the comedy club 50, 60 years ago, and you're going to dress up. You're going to wear a suit. Maybe at the time, dressing up was a bigger deal in general. But you're gonna, it's a big night out, even if it's at a regular comedy club, the comedy club, you're gonna have those cute lights on the table and it's gonna try to be a little fancier, and of course the things they said, limitations legally with language and stuff like that, you couldn't just say anything on stage back then. So it was a little bit more formal. And then the jokes, well, you have to understand if comedy's around for longer, again, the joke about your wife not having sex with you is a classic, amazing joke, right? What is that? Like Rodney Dangerfield or whatever. Like he would say that all the time. My wife thinks I'm disgusting, whatever it was. He'd say it much funnier. But then then another person does their perspective. And then, then all of a sudden you have like two gay guys who are married. They do their perspective. Then you have the throuple and they do their perspective. But then after enough decades, like, okay, we ran out of my partner doesn't want to have sex with me jokes. So like, there's that thing built into comedy. The longer comedy's around, the more it has to change because you don't want to be a hack. Some people don't want to be hacks. And so you have to like switch it up. So that's interesting. So in that regard, the longer comedy's around, and Spanish comedy hasn't been around as long. So they can do the old school jokes because people haven't heard that, and sometimes they do. And then they're also big into like the cultural thing where like, I don't know, Dominicans say que lo que. So somehow it's a punchline to be like Dominicanos, and they're like, woo, and you're like, que lo que. Somehow que lo que is a punchline, which would never fly. It'd be like, I guess I hear some people now, they're like, yo, where's Brooklyn at? And someone's like, woo, and they're like, where's the Bronx at? Woo, and they're like, you're, and that's somehow a punchline. But it's pretty rare.
I did watch briefly Spanish Netflix special, some Spanish speaking dude, and it was like, I had it obviously on Translate, but the whole show was like, would not fly here.
Yeah,
the way he like bolstered himself up to be this like kingpin fucking gangster with his fucking cigarettes, and he had all these hot women dancing with him on the stage.
Oh,
and then you could see the I know what you mean about the joke being a little more simple.
Yeah.
It was a little bit, basic sort of premise punchline sort of jokes. But it was still interesting.
Yeah.
They're in for a good time. If that's where they're at in their like comedy.
It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one end where it's like you can just copy old school jokes, which I'm not saying, I mean, some comedians are doing, and I don't think they're all doing it on purpose, but sometimes some of these old school jokes have made it to be like memes. Because they're so old school, like American culture jokes, old school. And then you hear like a Spanish comedian doing that joke, and I'm like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's a meme now.
Yeah.
But they can get away with it. It's fine. Like, go for it,
100%.
And you're making people laugh. So that's another thing about like, I mean, it sucks for someone to be hacky. It sucks for someone to like rely heavily on crowd work and all that. But I will give it to them. Like, if you're bringing joy to people, but then again, if you're bringing joy to people and you're doing stolen jokes, that's like,
that's not good.
Yeah, people are still happy or whatever, but maybe it's still, maybe let them be sad,
Well, technically, if you were a Spanish comic, you could go look at any English-speaking comedy special.
And people have done it. I think there was like a French guy
thing.
who was ripping off Seinfeld jokes for years, and then he got caught eventually. And a couple other do it. It's funny because like on Instagram Reels, you can do that. That is completely legit. Like there's this, I don't know, it made me laugh, but there's this, first of all, there was that thing where like the surgeon is asking for the scalpel. So he's like, scalpel, so he goes like this. And then you like put your hand to make the heart with my hand instead of giving me the scalpel. You ever do it? And it's pretty funny. And I'm like, no, I need the fucking scalpel. Like, what are you doing? And then there was a bunch of versions of that.
That's actually funny.
It's pretty funny. And then the guy goes like this to the heart, the advance. It's funny how comedy evolves and advances.
Yeah.
So then the guy goes like this to the heart to his girl, like, ding, like, I don't know how he does it, like something like this. Like, it's hard to show it to the camera. Like this, right? So he goes to the heart to his girl. So she completes the heart. But she walks over and she puts her neck in his hand so that he's choking her.
Ah,
Hilarious.
it is.
Because now it's like, wait, we started with the heart. First was just the heart, and people would make the heart. Then it's me asking for the scalpel, you completing the heart. Then it's me going back to making the heart with my girl, but she just wants to get choked. So she walks up to me, she puts her neck in my hand. And then that was in like Chinese, that was in Spanish. And it's like, it just spread. And I think that's fine. They were all taking the same idea. And then even with the same exact scalpel one, there's one in like Portuguese, you know? That's fine. When it comes to reels and stuff like that, you can copy anything. It's totally legit. But for some reason with stand-up, because I think stand-up's supposed to be more personal and vulnerable, that if you're copying, it's kind of like, I'm watching like Apple Cider Vinegar on Netflix. I don't know if you're watching it.
No.
And it's about this woman like lying that she has cancer and building a big following because she's lying.
Was it a true story?
I think it's based on a true story.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just interesting. It's like, yeah, you can't do that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like you can't, that's an extreme version, but like you can't be vulnerable and then be lying at the same time. You know, it's just something about societal norm. Like you can't do that. So that's where I think with stand up, it's like, yeah, shouldn't be copying.
Yeah, and the longer I'm doing this, the more I can tell when a comedian isn't being authentic as well. Like if there's so many times they get off stage, you're like, I don't know if was that even you? Like it didn't feel like you.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can sort of tell.
You see a lot more. It's more in the open mic scene because you're dealing with a lot more new comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's to being or like authentically you is like where you have to go.
I think so. You know, and there's different styles. You know, I mean, there are some. You know, if you're playing a character, then you have to be authentically that persona. In which case, you don't have to be authentically you. You can be that character that you've created, and I do think that that's okay, and it can still be stand up. You know, it might border on clown, which again, it's its own very valid style of comedy, but it's not stand up. You know, like you can you can play a song that's comedic. That is a style of comedy. I don't think it's stand up. You have a prop. Anything to me that has a prop, I think automatically stops being stand up. But it can still be funny and everything. But yeah, but I think you can play a character, have a persona that's not really you, and it still be stand up. In which case you wouldn't be being yourself. But I think that can be valid.
What do you think about these guys that are like building characters online? You know, like building a certain character. You know what I'm talking, like Instagram guys that are like, you know,
Tony D comedy.
Right.
He plays characters.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays like, Italian Jewish guy. Sometimes he's wearing a yarmulke and
I know Tony D.
and a cross at the same time. It's just, to me, when I see the yarmulke and the cross at the same time, it's funny to me.
He's so funny.
It makes me laugh. I don't even know. Sometimes it's on mute because he doesn't do subtitles, which I'm interested. Like if you did subtitles, if he's gained so many followers, like he's up like 250,000 followers. It hasn't even been a year.
Wow.
So he's gaining 1,000 followers a day more.
Wow.
Like, consistently.
It just goes to show, hey, like you just got to commit.
Yeah.
Commit and you get there.
You got to commit. You got to. But he posts like 3 to 5 times a day.
But does he then, like when I've only seen him do stand up once and he didn't do any characters. He was
He's just being himself. Yeah.
Being a stand up.
Yeah. Which is interesting for the character.
Do you think then though, when he does become, if he really blows up and people want to see him for comedy, they're going to expect to see the characters?
For sure. Yeah.
I wonder what that's going to look like.
Yeah. Well, what you do is, and what he's doing, and I think he and Sienna Hubert Ross were talking about it. I think they were saying about how you start sprinkling in the stand-up clips, you know? You just sprinkle them in and you just let people know, hey, by the way, I also do stand-up. Yeah. But then he's got this one character that he's not playing a character, but he's talking about, he's been doing this one, you know, he has like variety show. It's his style of posting. So variety show is like you have not unlimited, but you have like 5 formats. And you're going to repeat those 5 formats with variety, you know, different situations. So you're the Italian Jewish guy. Sometimes you're the Russian guys. And then one of them is the contractor that's ripping you off, which I think is funny because it's also so relatable. You know, the mechanic or the contractor that rips you off. I mean, it happens all the time. They come in, the job is always worse. On Mark Norman's podcast, he's talking, you know, the job, they said it was going to be this much. And then something always comes up and it's always more money. And it's always something that they want you not to understand why. And it's like a classic, like true thing. So that's one of his characters. And then he was doing a show with us the other day at St. Mark's, and he was just discussing, you know, these contractors always rip you off. It's like when you go to the mechanic. And then in doing the act out of the contractor, he went into character. I thought it was super funny.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And he's, we have the brick wall behind the stage, and he's like, "Oh, you see this one brick? It's off like 7 degrees. We're gonna have to take the whole house down. We're gonna have to start from scratch."
Wow.
So now and I was like, that makes sense. Act outs are legit. So he wasn't playing
Act
a
outs-
character
act
so much
outs-
as doing an act out.
Act outs are just super.
I thought it. Yeah. Sorry.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
A comedian that can pull off an act out, that just brings it home, doesn't it?
So good. Yeah. And it's just like, it was super relevant, super relatable. And the character he flowed right into it. So I was like, good job. So he can still give them what they want. He can still hold true to himself. And I think he's going on tour soon. So I think that's what he's going to do, talk about yourself. Maybe they get a little, like when they shout out, "Do the Italian Jew," it's probably going to happen. And then he won't just give in. I'm not saying he said any of this to me, but I'm saying like, I'm just imagining I'm seeing him on stage. Then he'll be like, maybe he'll do a setup about like, I'll tell him this. Maybe he'll do a setup where he's like, these people who like, they're confused about their identity. He's like, I know this one guy, he's Italian, but he's also a Jew. Mm-hmm. And then he'll act out that character. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he'll do something with that. But yeah, I think he'll find a way. It
certainly gives him so many options, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Because he can just do the whole spectrum of comedy.
Yep.
Amazing.
And then he still has all the jokes about himself, about being fat, about being in special ed and all that, which I think he says is true. So you can do all that true stuff, work in ice cream truck, and then fit in throughout their stories about things we can all relate to, go into character, come back. Everyone's happy. Got the hour right there. I mean, the goal is the hour, 50 minutes at least. I think they say, maybe minimum is 45, but like, so you tour, you've got like the host does 15, the opener does, show should be 90 minutes. So host does 15, then the opener does 15 to 30, and then you do 45 to an hour. That's like the classic, headliner show. That's generally what people look for when they're touring and stuff. So he can do it. Yeah. It's pretty dope.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. he's how long has he been in the game for?
I mean, he was doing comedy for years, and then he stopped for a few years.
Gotcha.
So it's hard, how people count it.
Yeah.
I don't know how he counts it. He might say 8 years. I don't know what he'll say.
I don't know if you do count the time before you stop. Yeah,
It's tough. Yeah. It's weird. Like for me, I did a year where I just did a 5-minute open mic every Saturday for a full year. Then there was a pandemic. So I'm like, I don't know, was that a year of comedy? I don't know.
No. Because at home, I did comedy for like a year and a half, but I was doing like an open mic every month.
Yeah.
And I don't count any of that.
But then you realize ultimately it's like an ego thing. You want to say the least amount of time possible so that you seem better than you are.
Yeah.
So really, ultimately, I should just start rounding the number up like I do my age. Yeah, I tell people, that's true.
60 years been doing comedy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I say that I'm 47, but technically my birthday is in July and I will be 47 in July.
You do what my wife does.
Yeah, I count the womb time.
My
9 months before my birthday, I start saying the next age.
My wife does it because there's a psychological thing. If she accepts that she's older than what she is, then when her birthday does come, it's not a shock.
It hits different, as the kids say.
It's so weird.
I don't even know if the kids say that. I start realizing I'm still like one generation off of the slang when I say what the kids say these days. Hits different's been around for like 15 years or something.
I've never heard it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it hits different.
That hit me good.
But yeah, definitely your birthday comes and you should be crying, but it's like, I cried 9 months ago. You know what I mean? Like, at least you're not crying at your birthday party. So it definitely
I get you.
Makes it a lot better.
So tell me your writing style. Like what?
Writing style.
And get quite specific with it if you can.
No, I mean, for me, I like the idea of talking about, like, for a while, I was like, I'm just going to talk about 3 things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's this umbrella. It's like, well, I'm Colombian, white, from Brooklyn, didn't grow up speaking Spanish. That's one thing. Like what I am, like blood-wise or whatever. You know, like not blood because Brooklyn. I don't really talk about Brooklyn too much because I can't think of anything funny about Brooklyn for some reason. Which I will. I don't know why. I'm like, it was pretty serious. So basically being like Colombian white, but in that, like not growing up speaking Spanish. So that's like me, one thing. Excuse me. Then it's like being a teacher. And then it's like losing a shit ton of money in the vegan restaurant business. So those are the 3 things. and I have a lot of other jokes that don't relate to those three things, but I want it to sound like one story, you know, where not really one story, but just like, you know, where it's all fits in together. So I focused on those three things. And then I almost got arrested in Mexico City. That's very funny. I thought it was hilarious. And then like I
How
have
did you get arrested in Mexico
it's
City?
really fun. It's a good time. I was
Tell-
just a drunk American
Do you want to tell the story?
talking shit. I could tell the story. I mean, I thought it's a whole thing where we were there for Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone, a lot of people in costume, and then we were all partying for someone's 40th birthday.
Mm.
And we go out, and there's a bunch of girls there too, and a bunch of us are half gay. So we're like, let's go out to the gay club. So we go out to the gay club, and we're just hammered and just having a great time. And I didn't mind. You get some attention, and it's like it just reminded me of college, because I was in a fraternity. So like obviously all my frat brothers wanted to bang me. So it's crazy. I mean, I don't even think gay guys are into me, but a straight guy, they definitely feel.
I've had some moments in my life. I can relate.
So we come out of the club. I go to get a taxi, and we're in the taxi. We're going home back to the hotel. It was Macy and I. And this guy, he's dressed like the Joker because it's Day of the Dead. People are in costume, and with the purple suit. When he's going down the stairs, he's got that purple getup and everything, and he's just harassing our cab driver. And he's just like banging on the thing. He's yelling at her, and he's like, I'm telling her she owes him money or something. And I'm a dumbass. And there's a lot of traffic. So the car's not even moving forward. We just have this guy just yelling at our cab driver, who's a female. And like, it's funny because like, in one sense, I'm like, I'm going to go stand up for this woman because she's a woman. And I'm like, is this sexist? You know what I mean? Because like, if it was a guy, I probably wouldn't have gotten involved, which is interesting. Because I'm like, I don't know if that's sexist. Like, I want to help her, which sounds like a good thing, but I'm also like implying she can't handle herself. Anyway, that's a whole thing. So I get out, and he's yelling at her, and I see his phone is like, he's not paying attention to his phone, which is in his hand. And he's yelling at her like with one hand, and his phone is in his other hand. So I snatch his phone out of his hand, and I'm like, leave her alone, all right? And it's just like, you know what, get away from us. And I throw his phone into like this little grass patch on the sidewalk, so it doesn't break. So I'm very conscious of what I'm doing. I want him to go away from the car. I go back in, we drive away, everything's fine, right? Like, I had a strategy. So I take the phone, I throw it on the grass patch, and I swear to you, the moment it hit the ground, some other random dude runs by, grabs the phone, and runs away.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, holy shit, did I just like kind of steal this guy's phone? Like, I kind of stole his phone in a way. It looked horrible. The cops immediately show up. And this guy, the Joker, is now like, he stole, everything's in Spanish. So he's like, this guy stole my phone. What the fuck? And I'm hammered. And I'm like, fuck you guys. He's the problem. Ask the cab driver. Cab driver's gone. I'm like, what is going on here?
Wow.
I'm yelling at them nonstop. I'm like with that New York American douchebag. You can't, whatever. Just being a total douche. But in Spanish, so I feel like it's less bad. I'm not being
Still
a
bad.
Karen. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the Spanish, I'm being a Karin. I was carrying it up hard. And I mean, I just fucked up. I'm in their face. Fuck you. You're cool. And it's going, all of a sudden they have a video from the third floor above me. I'm like, how do you have a video?
You've been set up.
I'm like, and it's fully me grabbing the phone and throwing it. They're like, you can't deny this. Like, you're fucked. And
this is the setup.
I'm like, holy shit. The video was so impressive. Like, at the same time, I was scared and upset. I'm like, you guys are good. Like, whatever it is you're going for, like, you worked for it. You deserve it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm telling this guy, this is bullshit, out of nowhere, the cop, and this is going on for like a full 15 minutes. And the cop turns to me and he's like, wait a second. He's like, are you Colombian? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Colombians only come to Mexico City to cause problems, to steal, to bring drugs. He's like, you're going to jail, right? Everything's in Spanish, right? He grabs me, throws me up against a wall, handcuffs me. And I'm like, I swear to you, the only thing that crossed my mind is I'm like, yo, this guy thinks I sound Colombian, you know? I swear to you, I'm supposed to be scared, and I'm so proud because I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I'm like, yo, can you just, like, can I do my one phone call so you could tell that to my papi? You know what I'm saying? Like, my father would have been so proud. It was unbelievable. And that's why I think the story is so funny. That's the sincere, exactly what happened, you know, and that's not how I say it exactly on stage. But I legitimately am supposed to be afraid of this cop, and I am hyped. I'm just like, I was already being a dick to these guys, but I was like, yo, like, but anyway, he searched me because he was going to arrest me, and he sees I have a New York ID. As soon as he sees my ID, he immediately unhandcuffs, takes the handcuffs off of me. And he's like, oh, you're free to go. And by free, I mean, give me $150.
Yeah.
He was like, I'll be way direct about that.
Yeah.
And,
That's a great story.
It was wild. It was wild.
Have you told that on stage?
A few times, but I want to start bringing it like that. You know how you end the set with like the story or
Yeah.
whatever. So I'll do that and
That's a good story.
bring it together. But I'm only doing 9 minutes generally on stage. The most I do is like 18.
Yeah.
So I don't have enough time to get through all the jokes. So I'll do like,
Yeah.
eventually I'll start bringing it in.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I started doing these. I started having these other jokes. They just come to mind, I think, from a life experience, like this isn't, I don't think, ever going to be a stage joke, but I noticed that, like, I'm older now. And when I was younger, I also looked younger and I got like a lot more attention from women, I guess, always get called cute and stuff like that. So now I'll be like walking my dog down the street, but now I'm 47. And then, I'll still hear girls like, oh my God, he's so cute. But like, they're always talking about the dog. And I'm like, oh shit, like things have changed,
That's good, bro.
So that's just like 100% what happened, So most of my jokes are just 100% a thing that happened.
They're the best ones. Well, you're very talented.
Thank you.
You're a very, very good comic. You're really good to watch. But yeah, finish up with your writing style because I want to get that out everywhere.
So well, that's
how
basically
it comes
like,
in, how you get on a page, and how you work through it, and how you deliver it.
Most of the time, it's something that just happens, or I see something happening on the outside, and then I see how it relates to me, and then a lot of times I'm not writing. I have trouble sleeping, and I sit in bed and I just start going through it, and I find that I'm not particularly funny in general, but like if I'm sedated, I'm pretty hilarious. Like if I have to do a surgery and then I get out of surgery and then you talk to me for like an hour after I become conscious, I mean, I think that guy's really funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that guy, he knows what he's doing. And it's like, there's something
because you've
about,
lost the wall.
Yeah, you've lost the wall.
Yeah.
And 100%. And it happened to me recently. And there was 2 times where I've been like napping in the middle of the day.
I love naps.
Because naps are
dude,
amazing.
I fucking love naps.
That's such a sign of low T. It's like the low T love. Yeah, that's more than sex, I'm sure. And I'll nap. So then I'll eat. I'll fall asleep immediately. Okay, and it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm just getting older. It's like, no, you have diabetes. So fuck. This is a tough way to learn it. So I fall asleep, and this is one time. So one time it was actually like a surgery thing. And then another time I fell asleep and then I was like, oh shit, I'm late to my set. I only live 5 minutes from the club. I rushed to the club and I think I'm being so funny because I'm like half asleep, and I realized like, oh, I'm funnier when I'm like half awake, The sedated thing, everything was a joke. It's like, boom. And it was a flow and it didn't come off unnatural. So sometimes I'm like in bed and I'm like half asleep and all of a sudden I get all these ideas that are kind of funny. And then it kind of sucks that you have to write them down because this whole thing I'll remember in the morning, it's a lie. Okay. It's the weirdest thing, but no matter how funny your idea is, if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it. It's crazy to think that that's even possible, but I don't know how, because it actually goes back to this computer programming thing. Like if back in the day, if you'd shut your computer off, they'd be like, oh, you're losing memory because you lost the address. So actually the joke is still in your head. You just don't know where it is. So you can't get back to it. It's like this whole thing with like memory and education. Like
it does sometimes bounce back though, but it will bounce like if I haven't written something down and I'm like walking down the street and something will happen, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
It comes back, but it doesn't come back from just trying to sit there and think about it.
Exactly, yeah, because you can't like, your thoughts are like webs, and then eventually if one of the parts of the web hits that address, it just comes to you out of nowhere. But it's a lot of the times you don't remember. So I'm like half asleep and I start going through my set because I'm like, it's going to take me at least an hour to fall asleep. So I'll sit there And I start going through the set, and then I just start expand because again, it's just those 3 topics. And then I'm like expanding on it. And I'm like, oh, and then lately I'm like, I want to do a more of a, I don't do jokes about like current events, but I'm like, if I can relate it, excuse me, to that place that I'm into the story about me losing money or whatever. This one's not working, but like I was like half asleep and I'm like, I remember in my feed, people would talk about how Donald Trump is like, owes a lot of money. You know, there was something with, he was sued and he had to pay millions. And then something about how he had a lot of debt. As much as he's rich, he has a lot of debt. I mean, a lot of rich people have debt. But I was hearing that a lot on my social media, but I guess he's not known for being in debt. It was just like left wing trying to make him look bad or whatever. But so then I tried this joke. I'm like, oh, I'm so in debt. I'm qualified to run for president, whatever. It's not working because people don't look at him that way. But that was like, I was like half asleep and I'm like, well, I'm in debt. Well, in debt like what? In debt like who? You know? So maybe I got to choose like a different analogy. But I'm like, okay, in debt. And then I'll do something more current events, more relevant as like a side thing. So then I would just sit there and I go through all the jokes and I'll try to see how I can offshoot. I like the idea of the offshoot and come back, you know? Where I'm just talking about losing money, but actually I'm offshooting a lot and then coming right back. So I'll just sit there and I'll just go through it and then I'll have my little list. I use this thing called Workflowy. It's like it's like a to-do list, but you can just like keep doing subcategories. So I like that. So you can keep going deeper
like a
into
mind
the joke.
map.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So what app is that?
Workflowy, it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so I'll just like sit there and I'll have some ideas and I'll write it down and then I'll just go back. I want to go back into that sleepy state. And then I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then I have to, it's annoying because I got to get up and then write it down again.
Yeah.
And then I go back and I'm like, oh yeah. And then go, yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I just sit there and I literally just go through it and I go through different ideas.
That's cool.
And it's usually when
it's
I'm
almost you're getting yourself in a meditative state to allow the thoughts to come to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost counter to what, like some people say, you've got to sit down and do your 1 hour. Do your 1 hour where you just sit there and every day.
Yeah.
But you're almost doing the opposite. Instead of forcing yourself to do it, you're allowing the thought and the joke just to come to you naturally.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I had another guy, he hasn't been on the pod, but I'm going to get him on soon. But I was talking to him a few days ago and he said, I never just sit and write. He goes, I only sit and write when a joke comes to me. Yeah. And it will just come to me at the most random time. And that's when I know, all right, I've got a joke and I'm going to work through that.
Yeah. Like I saw it was that article about this joke. It's not working as well as I'd like, but like there's that thing about teachers are getting caught on OnlyFans. You know? And then I was like, oh, they're opening an OnlyFans. And then there's that whole concept where like teachers are paying for school supplies. So that already I had in my mind. Teachers pay for school supplies. I knew that because I was a teacher for a long time. That's just a known fact about teachers. They use their own money to buy school supplies. And I'm like, oh, that's why they care so much about these kids that they're making an OnlyFans. You know? So I'm trying to make a joke about that, about, oh, teachers are hustlers. They still use their own money to buy school supplies. Some of them care so much that they're not only role models, they're OnlyFans. Whatever. I think like the models things not. Anyway, so that was like, I saw an article about a teacher getting fired for having an OnlyFans. And then I was like, oh, that's what the school supplies thing. I feel like there's something there. And then I just wrote it down. So like the thing happened and then, so that's the other way. Yeah. Where like something happens and I'm like, an old thought connects with the new thought. And I'm like, oh, there's something there. Yeah. I haven't figured it out yet, but I keep trying.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
One day. For me, it's just like, can I just talk in a normal voice? That's priority number one. You know, like even now here, like I'm talking in more like, I guess, a clearer podcast voice, but like that sleepy Danny, that kid's a character. You know? If I could bring that voice on stage, that guy is fucking funny. You know? So to bring that more silly version of me, because I do think there's some of my friends, this guy Ron Barber I would talk to, and this was when I was losing the money. Like he would get the day-to-day, you know, like my electric bill at one point, it ended up getting much higher. It was like $64,000. I got a bill from Con Edison, it was $64,000. And I'm like laughing to him.
Is that for a month?
No, I locked Con Edison out of the basement so they couldn't come in. And they weren't physically able to get on the premises. And the building's old enough where they could not shut your electricity off unless they got in. And I would lock them out. You know, yeah, it was pretty great.
That's funny.
So I didn't pay it for so long, and they were giving me fines like $1,500 a month. So eventually, my bill was $64,000. And I'm just like telling him so matter of factly about the bill being 64,000. I kind of changed the subject. And I was
How
like,
are
so
you
anyway,
not fucking suicidal? My God, dude.
that's a good thing about being an old school communist. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
about being a math teacher. When you study math enough, when you major in math in college, you eventually get to your last class, which is like, oh, numbers are completely made up. And I'm like, thank God, you know, because it's really not even a thing. Like, we don't, when you take upper level math, you're doing things like 1 + 1 = 2. They're like, prove that that's true. And it's actually kind of complicated to prove that, you know? You have to go into this whole like other realm of math. So, yeah, communist math teacher. That's the way. I mean, I'm not feeling good, but I mean, I'm telling you, this is another joke I'd love to do, but it's kind of fucked up. But it's like people during the Great Depression were like offing themselves because they lost like 15 grand. You know what I mean? Which I get like now in today's whatever, 150 grand, whatever it is. You relate it to today's money. These people were losing 150 grand, 200,000, and they would check out.
Yeah, my brother was telling me about that.
Which is wild. And it
Yeah.
even still happens to this day, like with crypto scams and all that.
Well, I lost a lot of money on crypto. I lost 150 grand
I
on
could see that you
crypto.
look like one of those.
Crypto, bro. That's one of those dickheads that thought I'd jump on the train and then jumped on the train at the peak.
Oh, geez.
And then it went, phew,
Terrible.
never recovered.
Sucks, man.
It's hard to lose any kind of money, but that's a big chunk.
But for some reason, like, and I don't know, like, I feel like as much as I'm not handling it well, I'm handling it a lot better than almost anyone I know could possibly deal with it because it's just intense, you know, and it's just all the time. I'd have people randomly call me up like, you owe me $3 grand. This besides the fact of the people I owe 140 grand, 60 grand. There's another person I owe. There's like 280 over here, and then there's 300 over here, and then it gets like crazy. 140 over here. It's like another 500 over here, and there's like another 140.
Yeah, that's
whatever that adds up to.
It's a lot to manage.
And then you owe all that, and then some random person's like, yeah, this guy just texted me the other day. He's like, you owe me $6,800. And I'm like, which is nice of him to remind me.
Oh, shit, Danny, we got to wrap this up.
All right.
Mate, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man, that flew by. That was an hour and a half.
Yeah, dude. That
was
so
5 minutes.
fast.
You know what
Literally.
I mean? Yeah,
I know. I could really
sometimes
kick on. We're going to do this again. We'll do,
Hells yeah,
we'll
I'm
do many
down.
more. Do you want to give your plugs? Give them to the camera. Let them know.
Yeah, I'm
that
starting. Go ahead, sorry.
You go. Let them know just about you, everything. Your club. Let them know your Instagram. Go.
St. Mark's Comedy Club. That's in the East Village in New York City. St. Mark's Comedy Club. That's the Instagram and all that. The V-Spot restaurant, we're still there, somehow, 19 years in. Vegan food, a lot of Spanish food. Excuse me. At the V-Spot restaurant. And I've been trying to do reels talking about, low T and losing money. Mr. Carabano, MR Carabano on Instagram, TikTok. And I own the club. My brother, Alexis Carabano, he's hilarious and been doing comedy for years. Really funny. And we have a great, different styles of comedy, but we're obviously both Brooklyn, half Colombian kids. So it's really cool doing comedy. Macy Kwok, Macy KK. It's really helped us, come out of just to get me into comedy in the first place, Can't thank her enough for that. So
shout out to Macy.
Shout out to Macy.
She's a legend.
Yeah.
Well, mate, once again, it's been a pleasure. We're going to do this again.
Sounds good.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
See you in the next one, guys. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird. Podcast edited by Calpit. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you can, get after it.